Welcome everyone, and once again apologies for the delay. So
No worries.
We are bringing you the second event, second of our the series of virtual events today. I would like to first introduce you to Harsh from Mumbai. Harsh is one of our experienced partners, and he heads a company called No Footprints in Mumbai. So before that, I just wanted to give you a quick introduction to Harsh in general. Uh, Collaboration has been a key element for whatever we do at TravelScope. We cherish our relationships with all our partners who create these wonderful experiences for our clients in their destinations. So to begin this series of these virtual interactions, we have one of our most treasured partners, that is Harsh from Mumbai, whom I introduced to you. Harsh and his team are driven by the spirit of the people of Mumbai, I would say. For some reason, Mumbai always reminds me of New York City. And I think that it's the indomitable spirit and resilience of the people of these two cities which make what they are. I would say that Mumbai is India's big apple. It's a city of dreams. It's the city of Bollywood. It's our financial capital. A lot of people come to Mumbai with big dreams, but only a few make it, of course. Incidentally, Mumbai is also one of the most affected cities today because of the coronavirus, which we'll talk about it a little bit in our conversations. But what we are going to primarily discuss today is, how Harsh and his team showcase Mumbai very differently to the curious travelers. We'll also learn a little bit about Harsh's own journey from, being a student of engineering to working in advertising, and then eventually creating experiences as the chief nomad, as I call him, of No Footprints Mumbai. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like now Harsh to give a short introduction of himself, and then we will carry on this conversation. Thank you. Over to you, Harsh.
All right. Thank you, Mohan Babu. That's an extremely flattering introduction to me. And I treasure this relationship as much as all of you guys at TravelScope do with us. And thank you for always having our back. Yeah, the idea of No Footprints was started with, making community conversations mainstream. I think in a city like, Mumbai, which is, a financial capital, I think sometimes, unlike tier 1 and tier 2 cities, community stories and, protecting community heritage sometimes takes the backseat. And our idea was to kind of preserve these heritage, make this conversation mainstream, and basically bring Mumbai into the periphery of the international traveler. And in some ways, in terms of the products that we've created, I hope we've done that for TravelScope.
Thank you. So before I start this conversation with Harsh, I thought that we should set the tone by screening a short video of one of one of the signature experiences, which is called Mumbai by Dawn, which is a 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. tour of Mumbai, a very different side of Mumbai, you see. So if we can have that video screen.
There we go. No worries.
Thank you.
Okay, the sound is going. What's going on with the sound? Okay.
Thank you, Brunilda.
Great.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sorry
Thank you.
about that.
Well, that was a little glimpse of the Mumbai by Dawn tour. Experiencing it, is very different than what you're watching it on the video. But also because the video is playing a little slow, but I can tell you that's an amazing experience, and I'll let Harsh, of course, tell you all about it. So we'll start the conversation with Harsh now. So Harsh, one of my first questions to you is, let me start by asking you about the situation in Mumbai right now, in the aftermath of the coronavirus pandemic, and what is happening now, and how are the communities affected by this. You could just tell our guests a little bit about it, and then we'll move on to the other questions. Thank you.
Right. So Mohan, when you started off, you said, Mumbai is much like New York. So very often a lot of our guests come in and say, you know what, Harsh, Mumbai is like the New York of India. But when you're talking to a guy who's passionate about the city, we generally say, hey, New York is the Bombay of America, right? Because that's how we look at the city. They're extremely passionate individuals. And hey, let's face it, the world is grieving at this point of time. We are all in troubled times. And because cities like New York, as Salman Rushdie says, there are 3 world cities that he's seen, which is Mumbai, New York, and London. I think all the 3 cities that are major cities of finance or commerce have been struggling because of the number of people, that live here, work here. But the fact is that through all of these troubled times that are there, I think the stories of resilience that are there far outweigh the kind of negativity that is going down. One of the great positives that we've had is the number of tests that are happening are much higher. So directly proportional is the number of cases that do come out. But there are so many stories of resilience. There are so many people that are coming out in solidarity. We did an Insta Live with a lot of our communities, from the Dabbawalas to, the communities of, the fishermen, to going down and talking to the migrant community, to even speaking to people in Dharavi. And we realized that, the stories of resilience and stories of, coming together are so wonderful. And I think those are the kind of positives that we're taking back from, the COVID situation.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I mean, and I see that here as well, and how resilient people are, and there are amazing stories that are coming out. I think it's really brought people together. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So absolutely. No, that's heartening to know, and I know these are difficult times, but yes, when help comes in and people unite, I think those are the positives. So, Harsh, it's an obvious question that I'm going to ask you now. Is
right.
What prompted you to start No Footprints and give up a thriving career in advertising?
Right. Yeah, actually, my journey goes back to the time of engineering, and that's what we say in India. You first do engineering and then figure out what the hell to do with your life. That's exactly what happened to me. I was always, more towards a creative bent of mind, and that kind of took me into advertising. And I loved advertising. I mean, the people are great. It's a lot of fun. You get to ideate, you're creating stories, and I was writing them down. But, for me, I think the shift came in because of the fact that I just didn't think I was still doing enough. And, for us as people within the travel community, I think the ability to bring out community stories, do something, have conversations where the community is in forefront, for me actually was my biggest takeout from, tourism. And the fact is that while, of course, I was, writing down content, now I was, orally giving out content, which was amazing because content creation can exist in different ways. Of course, I also love speaking, which you'll realize soon. And I had a captive audience that was always available in the car. And the only way they could get rid of me was to throw me right out of the car. And well, that didn't happen. I've been lucky so far. So I love what I do. The ability to meet so many different people from various guests and community alike is, I would never do anything else after this in the rest of my life.
That's good. And I can tell you all the guests that you will never throw Harsh or any of his walk leaders out of the car. I can tell you. They're all very different, they're all very interesting. And definitely not. You're not going to go out of the car. So, yeah, I think I'd like to talk about is, the association between TravelScope and No Footprints. So we've been associated with each other since the inception of No Footprints. So how have you seen things evolving since you've created the first tour, Mumbai by Dawn, of which the guests had a little glimpse? But how have your experiences evolved thereafter? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So I'll take the first part. That is our association, and that's a wonderful question. Our association goes back since its inception. In fact, it'd be safe to say that you were one of the first people who actually kind of gave us the impetus to go out and create, right? When we came up with the first tour, which was Mumbai by Dawn, we pioneered it. People thought we were a little cuckoo. I mean, the guys who are getting up at 5 o'clock on a vacation, have you lost it that you're going to wake them up at 5 o'clock in the morning? And, we knew it was a crazy idea, but we needed someone, who was equally crazy to kind of back us up. And, we started one tour. Now we've got about 31 tours in our portfolio. And one of the things that, creative people or people who want to create stuff is that, you have someone has your back. And I believe that TravelScope have always had that and just encouraged us to go out of our comfort zone and create and have been able to sell those products. So we've been quite happy.
Thank you so much, Harsh. And I do believe that, I do believe in the fact that there are people who show their destination, their cities from their own eyes and from their experience. And it is important to have people like you and across India, because it's a big country and, we can't just be doing everything sitting in Delhi and, so we need partners like you. That's very, very important. So, let's move on to, and I know that there is a lot of work that goes on behind creating these wonderful experiences that you do and, a few of our other partners as well. But and I have been, very lucky to experience some of it myself, walking with you in Mumbai, whether it was going to Muhammad Ali Road during Ramzan or other things that we've done together. If I had to ask you to pick up, let's say, 3 of your experiences, which one would those be? And give me a little reason for why.
Yeah, that's a very unfair question, Mohan. It's like asking me to choose between my children, right? It's a tough choice. But if I had to, I would just kind of look at probably 3 different ways of, talking about it, which is food. One of them is, heritage, and the other is, where people are at the center of it. So, there are tours that I would like to start off with. Of course, you can't see me, but if you did, you would know completely, I love my food. So I'll start off with a food experience. A food experience called Khao Gali, which has been voted by Guardian as the 20 best food tours in the world. And we love it. I mean, the idea of conversing about, talking about how food has affected from the likes of migration, how food, how cultural imprints have been put in because of colonization, because of movement, because of settlements, just to understand the history of food, how street food has evolved, how different communities have impacted not only culturally, but also in terms of its food. I think it's a fascinating tour, right? Which, of course, you had been a part of when you were in Bombay. That's one tour, which is the food tour. Another tour that I would like to talk to you about is something that we recently created, which was called Five Senses. The idea of Five Senses was to, kind of change the way retrograde city tours were done, because earlier city tours were done where you went into 25 sites and you were done with the city. But there's so much more to the city, right? There is, of course, the stories that are there in stone, but there are stories in people. I mean, there's a story of Bollywood, right? And there's a story in food. So we thought, why not take the five senses and create a tour out of it? So, the first part, which is sight, we do the regular tourist site so that the people get the feel of the colonial history of Bombay. After that is sound, where we actually do a 30-minute Bollywood dance workshop for our guests. And it's so much fun, just to see them perform on Bollywood music, and you have a choreographer that teaches them. Then we move on to, taste, where we do a quintessential Mumbai thali, which is just so many different assortments of dishes coming together and creating a gastronomical collage in your mouth, for the lack of a better word, right? Or you have, smell, where we do the spice market. And it's an amazing spice market because you also see recipes of spices that are handed down, over the years and ages, where you have women who are sitting down with various recipes that have been passed down from their grandparents and their grandparents before. So that is an amazing way to archive history, and you walk and see the pounding of those spices. The smell is amazing. And then, of course, there is touch, where we work with a non-for-profit within the, within the space of tourism, where in education. So that gives our guests a look into the education part of it and how we give back in the community.
Okay. Yes. Now I totally agree, and and I still remember how funny it was that I'm a vegetarian, and we are doing this tour during Ramzan, where all you can see is kebabs all around you, and I'm a vegetarian just
Right.
looking for what I can eat.
I know. I remember that time. I remember the struggles, but we managed to get something. You weren't completely empty stomach, I remember.
And then the ice cream was anyway. So
Yeah.
we'll move on to something a little more, unique, a little more special, Harsh. So, we've seen an encouraging trend of, women-only travelers or solo women, travelers, and they have unique interests, and they're also, they have very specific, how do you say, requests, and they're very giving, and they love these experiences. So, do you create anything which specifically, which focuses on women-only travelers, or are there any experiences that you do for them?
Yeah, I mean, statistically speaking, we realized was that 80% of all travel decisions were being made by women. So we definitely know who the smarter gender is quite clearly, right? Also, the fact that post-COVID, a lot of women are going to travel not just with their partners but also their friends. Right, so we realized that is a great segment to be a part of. We have experiences, and while we were thinking of friends, we realized there were three things that really motivated travel. One was interaction, the other was workshops, because our workshops, about nearly about 20% of workshops were taken by women, and of course work tours. So I would like to, in terms of interactions, we make them interact with women who are associated with doing women, for instance, cooperatives, women cooperatives who are working to empower women, or the fact that you're working with women entrepreneurs, or non-for-profits, who are working towards women's safety. So these are the kind of interactions that we create with when women-only travelers come down. Of course, there are workshops, from Warli art workshops, to creating, of course, having textile-based workshops based on sustainable practices. And also, we also have, a queer tour, which is where we actually have an interaction with not only an LGBTQI plus guide, but also, with art collectives, and we do a queer-based tour. We include workshops in them. Then, of course, we also have regular walks, sightseeings, like, for instance, the Five Senses, or, Mumbai by Dawn, and colonial walks, etc. So there are lots of tours that we have, just specifically based on women, but we also customize it based on what interests your guests might have.
Excellent. That's good. That's good to know. Yeah, I mean, the customization part is also very, very important, and I know that there are a lot of you also handle groups which are very specific and focused on certain aspects, and you customize trips for them. Okay,
Sure.
so I just want to move on to another aspect. That is, you were recently awarded by Outlook Traveler, which is in one of India's premier travel magazine, and they awarded you for being the best responsible tourism, experience provider in Mumbai. Would you like to talk a little bit about that, Harsh?
Right. So the Outlook Responsible Tourism Award, we of course won the gold for the best tour operator in the country. And, through the idea was that we wanted to, of course, the special mention was our queer tour, because I think that kind of was a very, very interesting tour, which was more inclusive. But every tour that we do, from the likes of, say, Burli Village that you've experienced, where we talk about the Koli community, or as I told you about Five Senses, where we work for a non-for-profit that works in the education sector for children, running mobile schools, right? There are so many, tours that, there has to be a give back, right? In some way or the other. I'd like to give a story of where, we're so happy with the kind of partnerships we made. So one of the non-for-profits that we work with called Doorstep School is a mobile school. And they had this interesting idea where they went out and asked the children, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? A simple question, right? And the answers came out was, hey, I want to be a gangster, right? Or I want to, run a gambling den, right? Or I want to do what my father does. And there were just very grim heroes that they had, or idols that they had. So what Doorstep did was that they found out, people within the community who were heroes in their own right. So people who had probably achieved something, or, someone who had gone to a very prestigious university. And then what they did was they just changed the name of the streets to the name of those children, right, for 1 week. That was such a simple idea. And suddenly the ideals of these people just changed. And you had, an ex-person like Vikas, who was, had a street named after him, who had got into, a wonderful, school because of his just being able to study. So these were amazing stories, and partnerships like these really, enrich us. And every single way we want to give back to the community in whatever way we can.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I mean, no wonder you were, chosen as the best in the country for a Responsible Tourism Award. So we are probably, running a little bit out of time, but we will still, include, those couple of questions that I had for you.
Sure.
So, talking of Mumbai, we cannot leave Bollywood out. And for I wanted to check with you what would you do for guests who want to get an essence of Bollywood in a very short time, because people have little time, they don't have so many days. So what do you do usually for them? Yes.
Right, Mohan. Always people ask me, hey, Harsh, what are the three biggest religions in this country? And, the conversation goes on Islam, Christianity, Hinduism. And I'm like, that's all wrong, right? The three biggest religions in this country are cricket, cinema, and chai. All right. Bollywood is a religion, and everyone is, actors are akin to God here, right? So it's like Bombay and Bollywood are like Bonnie and Clyde, right? They can't ever be apart from each other. And, when they come in, of course, we have tours that are, full day tours where they go into a set. They also have a recording session. They also, go and check out, they do a Bollywood dance workshop, or we have a 30-minute or an hour-long Bollywood dance workshop that also works wonderfully for a special interest group like Women Group. In fact, whenever guests are like, hey, sometimes like KG guests are like, I don't want to dance, right? And we're like, listen, you have to do it because it's just so much fun. And you encourage them to do it. The next thing that they know is, you have 65, 70-year-olds who are doing it. And then they want the video because they want to send it to their grandchild, right? Because these are memories that they've just created. So I think it's a lot of fun. Also, there's a wonderful Bollywood museum that we include in our tours. So, we can customize so many different ways of how we can inculcate Bollywood. But there's a standard Bollywood tour, and then, of course, there is a Bollywood dance, workshop. In fact, I was thinking, Mohan, why don't we do one right here, right now with you?
Really?
Are you game? Yeah. So guys, all of you all down there, please do this at home, wherever you all are. So Mohan, like Bollywood dancing is like solving your domestic problems, right? It's plain and simple. So you've had a hot day in hot Delhi. All you want to do is go into your, go and take a bath. So what do? You go home and you turn on the tap. So Mohan, how do you do that? Can you do that with me? You turn on the tap, Mohan.
Sure.
and you realize it's going on slower, so you do it quicker, right? And while you're doing it quicker, you realize you can't see your tap now because your bulb has gone off, so you screw the bulb on top. So you turn on the tap, you screw the bulb, you shake your hips, you have a Bollywood dance step on. It's like solving your domestic problems, right? Right. The next time you forget the anniversary of your wife, probably fling something at you, what do? You just save yourself, right? So you're solving your domestic problems and your Bollywood dance step. You swat a fly, you kill an ant, you do it together, your Bollywood dance step, right? It's that simple.
No, the last one, no. I'm okay. No. No, that is good. Anyway, if we had time, we would have shown you a short video. But I think in the interest of time,
Right.
I think both of us
Right.
playing a little Bollywood dance jig was good. So
Right.
we're almost at the end of this session. Okay, on a little more serious note, Harsh. Before I wrap it up and we open it
Sure.
for questions and answers. So, do you have any takeaways from these extraordinary times that we are living now? And if there is one thing that you would do differently when travel kind of starts again, what is it that you think that you would do differently?
Right. I think one of my biggest takeaways is that one of the things is that, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that office is all about community, not about people as much. It's all about, people that you meet. I think, as I told you, the story of resilience is amazing that's come out of here. These are tough times. Travel will bounce back. It's always bounced back through adversities. And we're all searching for what the new normal is going to be. But of course, we need to be prepared for what it is. So from the likes of just, taking certain decisions which also benefit our guests, I think it's also important to keep communities in mind because they're also important stakeholders. So how do you sensitize the community who possibly believe at this time that, this disease has come from outside the country? So we need to sensitize the community as much we need to sensitize our guests. Of course, we're taking a lot of precautions, be it creating kits, right, for our guests, which are hygiene kits, to, of course, having mics where they can, be at a safety distance, to having temperature checks, right, to, if, needed, indemnity bonds. But, these, things are evolving as we speak. Times are changing as we speak. And we don't know what travel is going to be in the next 6 to 8 months. But yeah, I think we are prepared for it. These are the kind of first thoughts or the initial thoughts that we've gone ahead with. But of course, as I said, I think sensitization of community is as critical because, they are equally important stakeholders as our guests are.
Okay. No, that's good. That's important. And we're also working on, on these lines. But the situation is evolving. So therefore, we don't know, what the new norms are going to be. But given the situation, the way it exists today, we're trying to put together some guidelines and some standard operating procedures, which I also mentioned a little bit on the earlier event. So yeah, I think we'll have to, keep working on it. It's an evolving situation. So, well, with that, we kind of come to the end of this conversation with Harsh. I just wanted to add a couple of things, which, I want to say that once you're in Mumbai, when you are with Harsh or one of his walk leaders, I can tell you that these are amazing experiences. Harsh mentioned that from Mumbai by dawn, he has 30 experiences. I'd like to go and spend 1 month in Mumbai and do all these other experiences. Of course, I've done quite a few of them, and I still remember doing the Varli fishing village with you, Harsh, where, if you remember, we got that email from our client who said that she went to that temple with you and where the goddess would answer a question, and she asked the goddess a question whether her daughter will conceive. And 3 months later, I believe the goddess answered yes. And 3 months later, she sent us a mail saying that her daughter actually conceived. So that was,
it's amazing, right?
Experiences.
Such a great learning in these grim times, right? Because we look at faith as such a mojo thing, but at this point of time in the world we are in, I think faith is one thing that can guide us. So this is such a great example, just to know how faith can, how we need to be full of faith at this time.
Absolutely. So I don't know, do we have any questions, Brunilda, today?
No, we do not have any questions. If anyone would like to ask a question, this is a great opportunity to do so. We have two fabulous experts here in the fields. We will take the opportunity to advise and remind clients who are on that this conversation will continue next week on Monday and Wednesday of next week. So please make sure to tune in when we will have two other speakers consecutively. So Mohan will be speaking to two people over the next 2 days.
Yes.
I don't
Yes, I
see
would
any
like
other
to.
questions.
I would like to encourage everyone to sign up for some more wonderful conversations that are coming up next week. One is on Monday, 18th, and the other one is on Wednesday, 20th of May. And yes, so it was great having everyone on this conversation. I hope everyone enjoyed, and we look forward to having you on our events next week. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.
All right.